Okay, open up to John 21 if you're not already there. As we were already talking about in Pew Packers, we see that Peter and several of the other disciples, apostles are out there. They are fishing. Why but before I ask that question, at this point, at the end of chapter 21, how many times has Jesus appeared to the apostles? 3 times. Can you name all 3? Upper room, here. That's exactly right. So at this point, this is number 3. Jesus already appeared to them twice before he did this one. So this would be number 3. Why do you think Peter and the others are out fishing? Got to make a living. They were fishermen. Also shows that Peter is still, even though what had happened, he still has some level of leadership. What? He really wanted to go a fishing. Yeah, go a fishing. Oh man. But I remember at sunset, I was told by this was a very young guy. He didn't stay there except for 1 year as a teacher. Had said to us that Peter was fishing because he thought this was it. There wasn't going to be anything that he thought would occur, like the coming kingdom of Israel. So he kind of was giving up. And I remember thinking that doesn't seem right to me. Of course, I was young and not thinking straight. But I don't think that's it. I think it was simply that got to make a living.
Were they told to go out of Jerusalem?
Yeah. They were told to go to Galilee.
And I'll meet you there or something?
So there's a lot of things about that, but I bring that up because sometimes you read things or you hear things. Look at the context. Look at the text. So Jesus gets there. He sees them out there. They don't recognize him, and he says, "Children, do you have any fish? Or you don't have any fish, do you?" There in verse 5. They answered him, "No." And he said to them, "Cast the net on the right-hand side of the boat, and you will find a catch." So they did this. They found a catch. As we were talking about in Pew Packers, John immediately said, "It is the Lord." And what was the reason? Why do you think that? And there could be several reasons, but what was the reason we mentioned up here at Pew Packers? Why did he say that? Yeah, just like before. This is just like before. And it dawned on me. So when he said that, it clicked in Peter's brain. So he threw on his fisherman's coat, you could say, jumps into the water, and begins to make his way up there. And everyone else is trying to drag the fish in. He gets up there, sees the fire, but then he turns around and he helps bring in the rest of those fish. And again, like we were saying in Pew Packers, it's a coal fire. They're all sitting around. Jesus tells them, bring some more fish up, put them on for themselves. And he begins to ask Peter those 3 questions, just like before. That had to be stressful. To be sitting in that situation, you're happy. Peter's happy. He's got the Lord the 3rd time he's seen him since his death. And then, perhaps in that situation, being asked this question brought it back to his memory. Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you agape me more than these?" Who or what is the these? Okay, it could be the other disciples. Do you love me more than you love these men here with you right now? It could also possibly be, do you love me more than they love me, those here right now? Or it could also possibly be, do you love me more than fishing? J.W. McGarvey, do you know that name? J.W. McGarvey. He was the pupil of Alexander Campbell. He thinks it's the fish. He believes it's, do you love me more than these fish, your job, fishing? Or it could be, I lean more toward, do you love me more than the disciples, than these here? And it could be more than they love me. Because Jesus already knows what he's going to answer, right? He knows what he's going to say. And this whole situation is to bring it to mind what he did. But let's take a look. You love me more than these. He said to him, yes, Lord. You know that I love you, that I phileo you. Now, let's think about that and reevaluate what Jesus is saying and who the these are. Simon, son of John, do you agape me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord. So what is he saying? Does he love Jesus more than the other disciples? Is that what he's saying? Or is he saying that he loves Jesus more than fishing? Hard to agape fishing. That's right. Good point. Again, I tend to think it's the disciples, but he's saying he loves Jesus more than these. That's a big step up, isn't it, than from before? But it's not agape. It's phileo. Let me ask it this way. Is Peter wrong to say he phileos Jesus?
No, but that's not the answer Jesus was looking for.
I think that is correct. But he's leading him somewhere to a greater goal. Because in the end, he will say, do you phileo me? But I think there's more to it. But yeah, I think Larry's right. So you know that I phileo you. He said to him, tend my lambs. That word tend, bakoro, in the Greek, it's found all throughout the Old Testament, Septuagint as well, and it has to do with feeding animals, feeding the sheep, or lambs in this case. It's feeding them. And that's what he's saying. He's asking, feed my lambs. What is the difference between a lamb and a sheep? Okay. How old is the lamb? Yeah, it's the children, the babies, the little babies. After this, it's going to be sheep. Feed my children, you could say. He said to him again, a second time, Simon, son of John, do you agape me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I phileo you. He said to him, shepherd my sheep. He said to him a third time, Simon, son of John, do you phileo me? Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, do you phileo me? And he said to him, Lord, you know all things. You know that I phileo you. Jesus said to him, tend my sheep. Shepherd, feed my children. Why is this conversation important for Peter to have? Yeah, that's going to be his future assignment. That's his job, to get out there, shepherd, and feed.
Yeah, so he was confirming that he loved him, but at the same time telling him that there was something that he had to do.
Commission.
To show that.
That's right. You bring him some closure to denial, to bring him, I think they help him feel like he is moving in the right direction. And I think, absolutely, those are it. I mean, those are on my list of things. And there's one more thing. Oh, Jim. No, I mean, he's, you can see that there. The others are still following the lead of Peter, it seems, with the going fishing. But it could be a confirmation you're still an apostle. Kind of like what Larry was saying, here's your job. You're still going to do this. So yes, that's definitely in there. But I think that the third thing also is found there at the end when it says that Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, do you phileo me? And he said to him, Lord, you know all things. You know that I phileo you. In the past, when Jesus told the disciples that he was going to be handed over to the Gentiles and beaten and killed and on the third day raised, and Peter took Jesus to the side, what did Peter say to him?
I'll kill for you.
Not so, Lord. I will never let that happen. What did Jesus say in return? Get behind me, Satan. Not that he was Satan, but that he was in line with Satan. He had the mind and heart of Satan with that statement. How often did Peter put his foot in his mouth?
Quite often.
About every 3 verses.
What did he do differently here?
He fell in line.
Hmm?
He fell in line with what Jesus was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. It was no longer what Peter wanted. Peter understood he was saying phileo, but who knows Peter better than Peter? Jesus. He's there. You know all things. He gave up trying to do it his way and trying to love Jesus his way. He gave up. It didn't work. He failed. Because when he tried to love Jesus his way, he wasn't going to let anyone take him. When he tried to love Jesus his way, he cut off the slave's ear. When he tried to love Jesus his way and he followed him over there to the trial, he denied him 3 times. Where do we get the kind of love we need to love Jesus? Yeah, where do we get it? Yeah, from God, from His Word. How do we know anything about Jesus? It's from His Word. And when we were looking through the book of Titus on Sunday night, there in chapter 3, because of the appearance of Christ, those things and the understanding of those things is what ought to bring us to a point of looking to do those good deeds. Then we were studying the fruit of the Spirit. What's the very first fruit of the Spirit? Now, it's the fruit of the Spirit, so it's not ours, is it? It's not ours. It's the love of Christ. And we learn to love the way He did. Or He does, I should say. And I think that's what Peter is learning as well. He had been always trying to do it his way, looking at things from his perspective. And when you look at things from your own perspective, you can only see it from the perspective of this world. You have to see things from God's perspective. And Jesus showed us that. And when we can do that, and when we do it properly, we see everything differently, don't we? And I think that's what Jesus is getting Peter to see. And he did. Because you see a different response from Peter than he's ever had. It's always been, I don't think that's the way it should be. No, I don't think so, Lord. I know that's what you said, but I think this. Nope. He gave up on that. Lord, you know. And then the conversation stops. And at the very end there, after he says that, he says in verse 18, I think they're still sitting around the fire, eating fish. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were younger, you used to gird yourself and walk wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will gird you and bring you where you do not wish to go. Now, he said this, he said, signifying by what kind of death he would glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he said to him, follow me. Now, I think that's a dual purpose follow me. Follow me in that they got up and they began to go on a walk. Because we're going to see here in a moment, there's someone else following them on this walk. And they're moving away. And I think it's also follow me in the same way from before. Remember that they ran into Jesus, but when Jesus first had them recast their nets, what did he tell them after they brought the fish ashore? Follow me in one gospel, the other gospel. From now on, I will make you fishers of men. Follow me. Follow me. Peter is learning to stop following his own way, and he's beginning to finally figure out to follow Jesus. And so he's following him. He's walking. He's on this walk. Verse 20, Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them, the one who had also leaned back on the bosom of at the supper and said, Lord, who is the one who betrays you? So Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, Lord, and what about this man? Now, think about it. If you just found out, if the Lord just told you what kind of death you were going to have, and it was going to be because someone's going to bind you, they're going to take you where you don't want to go, and you're going to die. I think Peter understood that's exactly what Jesus was telling him. And it began to dawn on him. He probably looked back at John. Is John his friend? Yeah, good friend. So imagine, looking back and seeing my best friend, think, well, what's going to happen to my friend? What about him, Lord? I think it was a concern. I think he had concern. What's going to happen to John? If I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. What just happened there? Okay, Jesus is having a conversation with Peter. Lets him know what manner of death he's going to experience. They just had a conversation of 3 questions where Peter kind of grasped it a little bit. Lord, you know I phileo you. And then this, what's going on?
Mind your own business.
Peter, stop thinking for Peter. What did I tell you to do? Distractions in life. Have you ever stopped and really thought about if miracles, let me rephrase this. Have you ever thought, if miracles happened today, so-and-so would believe? Have you ever thought that and wondered that? How many miracles did it take for the Israelites coming out of Egypt? How many miracles did it take for them to believe?
0, because I never did.
Yeah. How many miracles did it take for the Jewish hierarchy, the leadership, who were looking for the Messiah? If they know the Bible, how many miracles did it take for them to believe? They didn't believe any of them. Isn't it amazing? They had all those miracles. They knew. They had the Old Testament. They had the prophets. They had so much to show them. And here's the Word of God to us. And how many people have believed because they read the Bible? Yeah. Why? Why? True seekers. The Word of God is power. I said, isn't it amazing that of all the miracles of those, even those who were looking for the Christ, how few believed? And here we are, we have just the Word, and people believe. How blessed they are. And here is Jesus talking to Peter, and how easy it is to get distracted. Even when we have the Word of God, and it is powerful. I think it's more powerful than a miracle. And yet, still, distractions can lead us away. Take us off our focus of what's more important. Here is Peter. He's following Jesus. He's thinking about the things that Jesus had probably said at the fire. It's the 3rd time he's appeared since his resurrection. He knows he's probably going to be leaving soon, as he intimated to them a few times. And he got distracted a little bit by the things of this life. What is that to you? You follow me. What is, and this is an obvious, I know, question, but what is the most important thing for you and me to do? Jim. That's right. Yeah, exactly. It's follow him. Follow Christ. That's it. of all the distractions of school and work and whatever it might be, that should trump everything. Everything. And we're going to skip down to verse 25 there where it says, for John writes, and there are also many other things which Jesus did, which if they were written in detail, I suppose that even the world itself would not contain the books that would be written in detail. I wish we had more detail. I wish we knew every word he said. Do you really think that around that fire with Jesus asking those questions to Peter, there was no conversation with those other disciples? Well, I don't think Jesus is saying that we shouldn't care. I don't think that's it. But it's to keep focus. It's just like with Mary and Martha. Remember when Jesus came in their home and Martha was busy preparing the dinner and Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus? And Martha wasn't doing anything wrong, but what was she missing out on? The presence of Jesus. How often do you get the opportunity to sit and listen to Jesus? Find your priorities. What's more important to you, Peter, right now? You know I'm leaving soon. I'm about ready to go. And that is your question for me. That's what you're wondering about. Of all the things, not nearly as important. Are those important things? Well, yeah, it is to us. But when you compare it to Christ being right there, if Jesus was asked you to follow him because he wanted to talk to you for a little bit, would your first question be, let's see, hey, Jesus, what's going to happen to Gary? Sorry, Gary, but it's the furthest thing from my mind. I have so many other questions. So many others. That's what's more, Lord, what can I do better? Where am I lacking? Help my unbelief. Grow me, build me up. And just let me sit at his feet and listen. Peter got distracted. And I think that's why it's there for us. Focus on what's more important. There's a lot of good things in this world. I'm not saying we ignore those things, but never to the detriment of following him, following Christ. Any more comments or questions on that? Yep. It's the same miracle they received there toward the beginning. And John, he zoned in on that. It's like, oh, it's the Lord.
And I personally feel for James because he didn't get asked about it. Just joking.
Yeah, Peter, James, and John. But we don't know. We weren't there. We don't go. We won't have all the details.